I am an imperial concubine who can hear the emperor's inner thoughts. In my previous life, I followed the emperor's every whim, fulfilling all his desires. I thought I would be promoted and eventually become empress. But the emperor was a despicable man. He rejected my advances and instead fell in love with a fisherman's daughter outside the palace. He ignored everyone's objections and made her empress. Fearing I might harm his empress, he had me executed prematurely. In this new life, after hearing the emperor's thoughts, I revealed the information to my sworn enemies. The emperor breaks out in hives after eating lychees. The emperor plans to deal with your family. The emperor praises your sister endlessly. And Fei and Shu Fei were shocked. Sister, what should I do? Please think of a way quickly. Chapter 1. I almost lost myself in those calls of sister. In my previous life, they all called me a slut. I wasn't idle either. I called them sluts, idiots, bitches, fools. But that was all in my previous life. In this life, they are my beloved sisters. I looked at Fei and smiled. Don't worry. I have a plan, but it depends on how ruthless you are. And Fei hurriedly bowed. My younger sister has just come of age and is already betrothed. I am trapped in this palace. I cannot let her get involved. Please have mercy on her. From now on, I will follow your every command. And Fei didn't believe me at first, until I had her pretend to leave the room, then sneak back, and see the emperor's gaze fixated on her younger sister, who was as tender as a bud. And Fei was so angry she clenched her teeth. Her younger sister was someone she had raised with her own hands, and her feelings for her were as deep as the sea. In my previous life, I followed the emperor's wishes and did something else, missing this opportunity. By the time I heard the emperor's feelings for Fei's younger sister, she had already entered the palace. This matter filled me with bitter regret. And I believed Fei had deliberately arranged it, leading to a major conflict between us. But in this life, I heard the emperor's heart's desire. Not only did I not do any of those things, but I did the opposite of everything, deliberately causing him trouble. Thus, I did not miss the emperor's heart's desire. It turned out he had already set his sights on Fei's younger sister. Humph. What a lecherous man. I did her a favor and told Fei about this. Fei clenched her teeth and said, "As long as you can save my sister, I will do anything." I beckoned her over and whispered a few words in her ear. Fei grabbed my hand and said excitedly, "Thank you for your clever plan, sister. Whether it works or not, I will never forget your kindness." Fei hurried away. She led her sister over and coquettishly served the emperor a bowl of soup. The emperor was overjoyed and happily drank the soup. Then, his eyes swelled shut. The imperial physician struggled to save him, and Fei led her sister to cry and wait on him. As a result, a wave of fragrance hit the emperor's face, and his rash became even worse. The emperor pointed at Fei and her sister. "Get out of my sight." Fei left sadly and sent her younger sister out of the palace that night. She hurriedly notified her parents to arrange her younger sister's marriage as soon as possible. When the emperor's measles subsided, he recalled the incident. The news of Fei's younger sister's marriage had already spread outside the palace. The emperor fell silent, likely recalling that both times he had seen Fei's younger sister, he had contracted measles. He suppressed his thoughts. It seems our destinies are not meant to be. I curled my lips in a mocking smile. In my previous life, he brought Fei's younger sister into the palace, slept with her a few times, and then grew tired of her. The palace gained another pitiful soul. He, however, lived freely and happily, falling in love with someone else. Spit! A lecher. Months later, Fei's younger sister was married off, and Fei finally felt at ease. She came to thank me. I dismissed everyone else. She suddenly knelt down and performed a deep bow. Sister, I will never forget your life-saving grace. From now on, I am your person. Whatever you say, I will do. I hurriedly helped her up. There was a strange tinge of emotion in my heart. In my previous life, I had enemies everywhere in my quest to become empress. Yet when I died, it was those very enemies who came to bid me farewell. Those who understood me best were my enemies. They pleaded with the emperor, saying I would never harm that fisherman's daughter. Although the empress consort speaks harshly, her heart is kind and compassionate. Although the empress consort is arrogant, her actions are upright and honorable. Although the empress consort flatters those above her, she is not servile. Although the empress consort loves to compete for favor, she would never stab anyone in the back. The empress consort. Never mind. Don't say any more. Let me die. The emperor hesitated. But the fisherman's daughter, with tears welling up in her eyes, spoke softly. I cannot compete with these palace intrigues. Nor do I care to. Li Xin, if you cannot clear the obstacles for me, do not confine me to the palace. The world is vast, where cannot I go? It was this sentence that solidified the emperor's resolve. He gave me poisoned wine and sent the other concubines to a Buddhist temple. The vast palace was left with only the two of them, destined to be together for life. Spit! In this lifetime, I will make sure they meet a terrible end. I helped Fei to her feet, feeling a mix of awkwardness and pride. Oh, the daughter of the Yin family. It seems a little kindness was all it took to buy you. And Fei clenched her fists in anger. Zhao Jiufeng, your poisonous tongue will be your downfall. I thank you for the small incense. You are my benefactor. I will not hold your words against you. I will remember your kindness. The small four-sided incense is made from lychee shells, sugarcane residue, dried tangerine peel, and pear peel. And Fei increased the amount of lychee shells and made a new small four-sided incense. She and her sister sewed the small four-sided incense into a pouch and wore it on their persons. They also stuffed the incense powder into the pearls on their hairpins, sleeves, and shoe tips, even adding lychee juice to their lip balm. The two of them nearly killed the emperor. However, the emperor couldn't die yet. No one in the palace was pregnant. The emperor had been on the throne for 3 years. Yet no one in the palace had given birth to his heir. I suspect the emperor is impotent. But when I died, that fisherman's daughter was clearly pregnant. Could it be that all the concubines in the palace are infertile? I want to try again. And Fei chatted with me for a while. Our energies clashed. And we started arguing after just a few words. Perhaps. Maybe. Or probably. We were destined to be archenemies. And Fei finally gritted her teeth and took her leave. I felt a pang of regret and called out to her as she walked away. Aniru, if you truly wish to repay me, live your life well. In half a year, the emperor would go on an incognito tour and meet that fisherman's daughter. There were so many concubines in the palace, always gossiping and fighting. But I wasn't afraid of any of them. Yet that powerless fisherman's daughter made me so afraid. A single casual remark from her could stir the emperor's emotions. I wished there were more people I knew in the palace, so I could feel safer. And Fei stopped in her tracks, turned around, and looked at me with a complex expression. Don't worry. For your sake, I'll live well too. I felt relieved. The daughter of the Yin family truly had backbone. I still often went to see the emperor. There was no other reason. I wanted to see if I could get pregnant. Once I was pregnant, he would be useless to me. Then, the emperor was very happy. I am beautiful and striking, and the elaborate, vibrant colors I wear make me look even more splendid. The emperor once said that seeing me made him feel that the country was at peace and the people were content. But later, He chose a fisherman's daughter who preferred simple, pale-colored clothes and had a plain appearance. Men's words are as unreliable as ghosts. Trusting him is a recipe for disaster. Even his true feelings cannot be trusted. Because self-awareness isn't something everyone has. Not even the emperor himself knows what he truly wants. If he's destined to be someone else's man, then he'll have to work himself to death on this old woman. I'll make him tremble at the mention of sex. I seduced the emperor several times. Afterwards, the emperor was so tired he wanted to die. The concubine is truly a demon. I might die on her belly. I really can't go on today. I hope she knows better and stops teasing me. How could that be? I have plenty of tricks up my sleeve to drain him of his strength. The fragrant powder on my fingertips slowly fell onto the emperor's face, body, and bed. He rolled over and pinned me beneath him again. Finally, I was exhausted too. The emperor's drowsy eyes could barely stay open. I lay in the emperor's arms, drawing circles on his chest to tease him. I squeaked, "Your Majesty, it's almost my birthday. What gift will you give me?" "Humph. What do you want? What a boring woman. Always asking for things." I clenched my fists. In my previous life, I took his words to heart, restrained myself, and acted indifferent. But he said I was pretending. But when I wasn't pretending, he didn't give me anything either. In this life, I don't care what he thinks. I only care about what I think. I said in a coquettish voice, "Your Majesty, I have served you so well. Can you grant me a favor?" "What do you want?" "She just wants to be empress. Doesn't she even look at herself to see if she's worthy?" My fists clenched again. "Your Majesty, I've been in the palace for many years. I want to go home to see my parents. Please grant me your permission, Your Majesty." My voice took several twists and turns. I even felt sick of myself. The emperor paused, momentarily taken aback. "I've misunderstood her. She's just homesick." "Granted. It's a small matter. Is there anything else you desire?" He spoke with hidden meaning, and I understood his intent. This despicable man. He wants to coax me into revealing what I truly desire. If I really said it, he would just use it against me, look down on me, and treat me with contempt. He thinks he's so clever. I don't want anything else. I did once think about becoming empress. But then I realized I'm not worthy. Being a concubine is the best fate I could ask for. Your Majesty, please don't make me think such things. If I really did think that, you'd scold me again, and I'd be so embarrassed. But then again, Your Majesty isn't the kind of person who would do such a thing. So I dare not think such things. Your Majesty, please sleep. I'm so tired. The emperor was speechless. His inner thoughts were a jumble of meaningless nonsense. Humph. Does she know something? Was she just sarcastically insulting me? No. She wouldn't dare. It seems I've spoiled her too much with my affection. Tomorrow, I'll call for Shufei. Oh, I understand. Tomorrow, I'll give Shufei some tiger balm too. However, Shufei doesn't trust me. She looked at me suspiciously. Are you being so kind? I yawned lazily and said, it's not entirely for you. Recently, the emperor almost took a new concubine into the palace. The noble consort grew serious. She had heard rumors about the matter involving the empress and her younger sister. Had it not been for the emperor's sudden outbreak of measles, the matter might have come to pass. But what does this have to do with me? I sneered. What does it have to do with you? It has a lot to do with you. It must be because we didn't serve the emperor well enough, giving him time to think nonsense. We must work harder to serve the emperor. Yesterday, I worked hard to satisfy the emperor. Today, you must do your best and not disappoint me. The noble consort's face flushed red. She stood up and spat lightly. How vulgar of you. The noble consort was an educated woman. Unlike me, who was neither scholarly nor martial. In her previous life, her father and brothers were imprisoned by the emperor. All she could do was kneel before the emperor's palace with the imperial edict praising her family's loyalty and righteousness, begging the emperor to spare them, insisting that her father and brothers could never have rebelled. Unfortunately, the emperor never saw her. After her father and brothers died, she starved herself to death to prove her innocence. I worked so hard to climb the ranks. Part of it was also out of fear of being arbitrarily disposed of by the emperor. At least the empress was the emperor's wife. Disposing of one's wife arbitrarily would inevitably spark criticism from the previous dynasty. I scoffed. We've been in the palace for 3 years. Yet not a single one of us has borne the emperor's heir. Don't you want to know if it's the emperor who is unable? Or if it's us who are unable? Furthermore, your family is about to face a great disaster. If you were to conceive, you might be able to save your father and brothers. The noble consort turned pale with shock. What did you say? I realized I had spoken too soon and quickly covered my mouth. I didn't say anything. You did. I didn't. Noble consort. Don't try to slander me. I'm leaving. I hurriedly slipped away. Xu Fei is a stubborn woman. If I told her directly that the emperor would punish her father and brothers, she wouldn't believe me. But if she grew suspicious and investigated on her own, she would definitely believe it. Sure enough, that night, the maidservant said that Xu Fei had called for water several times and didn't go to sleep until the 3rd watch. Upon hearing this, I flew into a rage. I had been pestering the emperor until the 2nd watch. Xu Fei had actually engaged him in a heated battle until the 3rd watch. Does she have more tricks up her sleeve than I do? I've actually been outmaneuvered by Xu Fei. How despicable! Xu Fei has monopolized the emperor's attention for several days now. Her favor is so overwhelming that it's enough to make anyone jealous. A few days later, she came to my palace with a solemn expression. After I dismissed everyone else, she suddenly collapsed onto the chair as if all her strength had been drained from her body. Her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with tears. Sister, you were right. The emperor really intends to harm my father and brothers. He truly has murderous intent toward them. But why? My father and brothers have been loyal to the emperor all their lives. Our Song family has served the imperial family for generations. I hurriedly interrupted her. Stop. Stop. Don't say anymore. I could recite the rest of her words by heart. My ancestors fought alongside the emperor to establish the empire. My grandfather was the imperial tutor to the late emperor, and his spirit tablet is enshrined in the ancestral temple. My father was the late emperor's attendant, serving by his side for decades. In the previous life, the noble consort repeated these words hundreds of times, but not once did they move the emperor's heart. I said, "Have you ever considered that your family might be seen as a hindrance?" The Empress Dowager stood up in excitement, but my father was loyal to the emperor and helped him ascend the throne. A cripple who recovers will discard his crutch first. The Empress Dowager collapsed onto the chair in despair and wept bitterly. What should I do? Does that mean I should just die? Your death won't help. The emperor enjoys sleeping with you and killing your family are two different things. The Empress Dowager was speechless. She raised her reddened eyes and glared at me. Then what should I do? I sighed. It depends on whether your father and brothers value their lives or their positions. The Empress Dowager immediately understood. She pondered for a moment. I told you. My father and brothers might not believe me. I took a bracelet from my wrist and gave it to her. Take this. Have your father take the bracelet to my father, and he will tell him everything. That dog emperor is so despicable. The task of investigating Xu Fei's father and brothers was assigned to my father. Though he found nothing, simply mentioning it would break their hearts. These Confucian scholars place the utmost importance on dedicating their lives to their cause until death. Xu Fei's father and brothers wanted to be like Zhuge Liang. Unfortunately, the emperor was not Liu Bei. They would eventually come to terms with reality. Once they did, it would be the end of their hopes. Xu Fei hurried away with the item. Before leaving, she suddenly stopped, hesitated, and told me, "Sister, you need not waste your efforts on the emperor anymore." For 3 consecutive days, I secretly took the emperor's pulse and also secretly examined below. He, probably, cannot. I was struck as if by lightning. He cannot? Cannot? Then how did he get that fisherman's daughter pregnant? I felt as though I had discovered some great truth. Are you sure? I studied under a renowned physician from a young age and even accompanied him on house calls. It was only after entering the palace that I pretended to know nothing. What I've seen, I'm certain of. I clenched my teeth in anger. That dog of an emperor. He slept with me all these days for nothing. Does the emperor know about this? Xu Fei hesitated. He probably doesn't know. Court physicians dare not speak definitively, especially about matters concerning the emperor's heir. That's good. I made up my mind. I must carry this child. If the fisherman's daughter can make the emperor wear a green hat, so can I. I began preparing for the imperial visit. Xu Fei was also busy. The next day, news came from outside the palace that the Grand Tutor had fallen from his carriage and broken his leg. The Xu Fei's eldest brother had injured his arm while protecting their father. The Grand Tutor was elderly, and the leg injury aggravated his old ailments. He was near death. Elderly people value returning to their roots. The Xu Fei's eldest brother immediately requested to resign his post and send his father back to their hometown. The emperor approved. On the day I left the palace to visit my family, Xu Fei came to see me off, silently shedding tears. I envy you, sister, for being able to return home, but I cannot even see my parents one last time. From now on, I will have no relatives left in the capital. I felt a pang of sympathy and stroked her head. With her father and brother gone, they likely would never return to the capital. Compared to power, life was more important. I whispered, "Why don't you have a child of your own?" She was startled. I looked at her intently. "There's only one chance." She suddenly grabbed my hand. "Please help me. Sister. He is unkind. Don't blame me for being unrighteous. Wait for my good news." I left the palace to return home. Though I called it returning home, I was under constant surveillance. Only when I paid respects to my mother and sisters did I have a moment to speak privately. My mother gripped my hand tightly and said angrily, "Zhao Jiufeng, you're so bold. You're trying to kill our entire family." I only said, "The emperor is no good. Relying on him, I'll never have children in this lifetime." My mother's grip loosened. "That damned Zhaoshen." Her eyes turned red. Mine did too. The Xu Fei family is a cautionary tale. The emperor doesn't know he can't have children. This child might save our entire family. If it can't, we'll all die together. My mother made up her mind and gently patted my hand. "Don't worry. I'm here. I'll go prepare everything. Prepare 3 sets. My mother nearly stumbled. I spoke boldly. "I have several sisters in the palace. You still care about your sisters in such a matter? This is the family tradition of the Zhao clan. If there's something good, we should share it with our sisters." My mother clenched her teeth and left. When I returned to the palace, I was holding a large box. On top were silver notes, and underneath were items too explicit to describe. After returning, I summoned Xu Fei and Anfei and showed them the box. "The sooner you use these, the more effective they'll be. Do as you see fit. Use them if you want, or throw them away. This is your only chance." Xu Fei took one first. If one concubine gets pregnant, the emperor will suspect her. But if several concubines get pregnant, he'll only suspect the imperial physician's incompetence. Count me in. Anfei clenched her teeth. You two are so bold. Just take it. But the emperor hasn't called for me lately. If I get pregnant, the timing won't match. What's so hard about that? Go to the emperor tonight and serve him some yuan shao. That dog has been craving them lately. Count me in too. And Fei also took one. That night, she carried the yuan shao to the emperor and coaxed him into her palace. By the fourth watch of the night, the two finally rested. I was heartbroken. Those wicked Shu Fei and In Fei. What tricks did you use to make the emperor battle with you until the third or fourth watch? My self-respect has been severely wounded. So, I played a trick and spread the word about the emperor's preferences throughout the palace. This kept the emperor busy. Today, Zhao Guipin sensed something that pleased him. Tomorrow, Li Guiren sensed something that suited his taste. The day after tomorrow, Song Marin was stopped at the door because the emperor had indigestion and ordered that all gifts from the concubines be returned. I felt a pang of regret. Song Marin was so foolish, she should have sent digestive pills. However, 2 days later, some concubines thought of this. The beauties of the harem united their efforts. For the next month, the emperor lived in extravagant indulgence, and both the upper and lower courts ate until they were stuffed. Meanwhile, my pregnancy began to show. At the palace banquet, I felt nauseous and began to vomit. As I vomited, Shu Fei and In Fei couldn't hold back either. In an instant, the entire banquet hall was in chaos. After taking my pulse, the imperial physician immediately knelt down and congratulated the emperor, saying that the 3 concubines were all pregnant. The emperor was overjoyed. He felt proud, as if it proved his strength, exuding an air of conquest over the harem. He did not notice the furrowed brows of the head of the Imperial Medical Bureau. He bestowed generous rewards on the harem and also rewarded the concubines who were pregnant. Then, he left the palace in disguise. The night before he left, he came to see me. Ah Feng, while I am away, the harem will rely on you to manage things. Since you are pregnant, you must prioritize your own well-being and take good care of yourself. What nonsense are you spouting? You want me to manage the harem and take care of my health? Why can't you do it yourself? I squeezed out a soft voice. Your Majesty, please don't go. I just want to be with you. The emperor's body stiffened. Ah Feng, be good. The empire needs me. Have these women in the harem never seen a man before? They all throw themselves at me. These past few days, my waist is about to break. If I don't escape from the palace quickly, I'll die on the bellies of these women. Me. No. Why did you take so many concubines? Useless dog of a man. The emperor, fearing I would cling to him, hurriedly found an excuse and fled. I stared at his retreating back and smiled. In my previous life, the emperor said he and the fisherman's daughter had endured hardships to return to the palace. Therefore, he regarded her as his savior, family, and lover. But what if the storms grew even fiercer? Could they still weather the storms together and share the years? I was curious. I released a white dove. The noble consort hung up lanterns. The consort lit fireworks. We all said we were praying for the emperor's well-being. The emperor's incognito journey this time was unusually long. He hadn't returned for 9 whole months. The court officials, who were initially panicked, had eventually established a smooth workflow, with everyone collaborating to keep the government running. The harem was also peaceful. With the emperor absent, all the concubines were leisurely, and their relationships were surprisingly harmonious. I, Shu Fei, and Anfei gave birth to 2 boys and a girl. Holding the children, I wept with joy. In my previous life, I envied the fisherman's daughter. I envied her for being loved by the emperor. I envied her for being the only one in the palace who could conceive the emperor's child. I envied her for having a blood relative by her side during the long, lonely years in the palace. But I only envied her, I never thought of harming her. What truly annoyed me was how she looked down on us, the daughters of noble families, yet still sought to climb into the lap of wealth and privilege, all while pretending to be virtuous and accepting it reluctantly. How despicable! In the previous life, the emperor favored her and the child in her womb. In this life, the emperor has 3 children. I'll see how she can use her silver tongue to beg for a lifetime of devotion to one man. On the day my imperial son's full moon ceremony was held, the emperor returned. I was dressing when my hands paused. How could he have survived? He was so difficult to kill. I dressed up and went to see the emperor. He looked haggard and frightened, but upon seeing us, he showed a joy as if reuniting with old friends. Ah, Feng, Shu Fei, Ner. I almost couldn't return to see you all. Shu Fei, Ner, and I exchanged glances. Then each embraced our child and rushed to the emperor's side, quickly pushing aside the fisherwoman. Your Majesty, you've grown so thin. I've missed you so much. Every day you were gone, I prayed for your safety. Your Majesty, look! This is our child. See how much he resembles you. Back then, my mother had specially chosen a man who was tall, strong, handsome, and bore a striking resemblance to the emperor. Now that the child was a month old, he was soft and adorable, and truly resembled the emperor. Everyone who saw him couldn't help but praise him. The emperor was very pleased. This is my child. He's a bit ugly. My concubines, on the other hand, have grown plump and more alluring. Only when I step outside do I realize that the palace is truly a heavenly palace. I shall never go on incognito visits again. The fisherwoman was neglected. She spoke coldly. Zhao Xin, since you have returned to the palace, I should also leave. We shall part ways forever. She adopted a cold demeanor and turned to leave. The emperor remained silent. I also remained silent. In my previous life, I was too hasty. Before the emperor could say anything, I rushed to confront the fisherwoman, demanding how she dared to know the emperor's name. The fisherwoman, with tear-filled eyes, said she had always called the emperor by his name. The emperor immediately rebuked me, saying my temper was so fierce. Did I really think I was the mistress of the harem? Apologized to Sui immediately. He shouted harshly, completely disregarding my dignity. He became her savior, and the two of them stood there with tear-filled eyes, lost in each other's embrace. I was humiliated and mocked by everyone. In this life, they wouldn't dare treat me as the villain or a stepping stone. I put on a shocked expression but dared not speak. Shu Fei lowered her eyes and remained silent. An Fei rolled her eyes and opened her mouth to scold. But I pulled her sleeve, and she quickly raised her sleeve to cover her mouth. Feigning fear, the emperor felt a bit embarrassed. Our entourage helped him regain his royal dignity. He might have suddenly remembered that he wasn't the homeless Zhao Xin, but the sovereign ruler of a nation. Sui, don't leave yet. Wait for me. Cough. Wait until I've changed and washed. Then I'll speak with you. Zhou Sui clearly wasn't satisfied with this answer. There's no need. You are the emperor, and I am just a fisherman's daughter. I know I don't deserve to stay here. I'll take my leave. She said her goodbyes but didn't leave. Only her eyes, filled with mist, lingered on the emperor. The emperor's heart began to race. This is so annoying. What should I do now? Are these people dead? Can't one of them say a few kind words to persuade Sui to stay? I am the emperor. How can I beg a woman? I rolled my eyes inwardly. In my previous life, I diligently followed your every whim. You didn't hesitate to kill me when you had the chance. This lifetime, you won't be able to use anyone else. During the Emperor's absence, I have clarified the palace regulations, handled matters with proper procedures, and acted according to the rules. The palace attendants all followed the rules, each doing their duty, and no one dared to speak out. Everyone watched in silence as the Emperor and Zhou Sui engaged in their intense love affair. Zhou Sui, seeing no one trying to stop her, clenched her teeth and stormed out angrily. As she reached the door, she suddenly swayed and collapsed to the ground. The Emperor rushed over immediately. Sui, are you all right? Quick! Call the imperial physician. The imperial physician arrived. He diagnosed that Zhou Sui was pregnant. While offering his congratulations, the physician's brows furrowed even deeper. Shu Fei and An Fei exchanged glances. An Fei quietly gave a thumbs up. Shu Fei adjusted the green hairpin on her head. I have a few green hairpins too, I'll wear them all tomorrow. The Emperor was overjoyed. He embraced Zhou Sui, who was slowly regaining consciousness, and wept with joy. Sui, did you hear that? We have a child. Our child. Our own. Zhou Sui smiled, then cried. This child cannot be kept. I am the daughter of a good family. Yet I have had an affair with you, which is already a mistake. This child is a mistake. I cannot make another mistake. Give me an abortion potion, I must terminate it. The Emperor held her tightly, his heart aching. Sui, you can't be so heartless. This is the child I've been longing for. I must give it a proper name. I will marry you and make you my empress. But I'm just a fisherman's daughter. No one will respect me as empress. Besides, I'm afraid of the palace. I just want to spend my life with my husband. Just the two of us. If you can't give me that, let me go. I won't let you go. Anyone who dares to object, I will kill them. He turned to look at us, as if we were enemies. You dog! I didn't say a single word. How dare you slander me like that? I won't take this lying down. I immediately said, Your Majesty, you are too selfish. How can you not consider Zhou girl? She is a young woman who has abandoned her virtue for you. You can make her empress. But the child cannot be born. If the child is born, the timing will prove that she was unchaste before marriage. Even if you make her empress, she and the child will be mocked by the entire world. How can you be so selfish? Do you want Zhou girl to be ridiculed for the rest of her life? The Emperor was stunned. He snapped out of it and flew into a rage. I am the Emperor. Who dares to mock her? I looked at him as if he were a fool. The Empress Dowager did the same. The Empress Consort did not know what we were doing, but she tried to keep in step with the others, also looking at the Emperor with an expression that defied words. The Emperor slammed his fist on the table. What do you all want? I said, Your Majesty, when a prince is born, there are midwives, imperial physicians, palace maids, eunuchs, wet nurses to attend to him. The child is bathed by the Astronomical Bureau on the third day. His name is recorded in the imperial genealogy, and his daily activities are documented. With so many people watching over him, do you intend to kill everyone in the world? Or do you plan to hide Zhou girl away and never let her see the light of day? It's clear you're jealous of Sui and want to harm her. The Emperor roared. My voice was louder than his. Your Majesty, I have no grudge against her. Why would I be jealous of her? Is she more beautiful than me? Is her family background better than mine? Is her demeanor more noble than mine? I surpass her in every way. Why would I envy her? Because I am captivated by her. Ha 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 ha. What is so great about his captivation? In my previous life, I did not captivate him. In this life, it is even less likely. I said coldly. From the day I entered the palace, I knew I would have to share the emperor with all the other sisters. According to ancestral laws, the emperor is destined to have one empress. For concubines, 9 consorts, 27 concubines, and 81 concubines. There are already so many sisters in the harem, what difference does one more make? I will not jealous her because the emperor is delighted with her. Instead, I will be happy that the emperor has found such a fine woman. But truth is hard to hear. And since the emperor does not wish to listen, I shall take my leave. You may make your own plans for Miss So. I swept my sleeves and departed. The noble consort shook her head and sighed. Your Majesty, you have truly misunderstood the noble consort. During your absence, it was the noble consort who took care of me, allowing me to give birth safely. If the noble consort truly felt jealous, my child would not have been spared. Your Majesty, I shall take my leave first. And Faye also sighed deeply. Your Majesty, after you left, the harem was in harmony, all thanks to the Empress Consort's kindness and fairness. If your Majesty truly loves So Girl, you should consider her reputation. A woman's reputation is of utmost importance, let alone that of the Empress of a nation. Ah, So Girl, take care of yourself. If you truly wish to become Empress, you must remain spotless. But now, 3 people spoke in succession. The emperor was confused. Zhou Sui was also bewildered. What should have been a joyous occasion had become a hindrance. For 3 consecutive days, I avoided the emperor. When he came to see me, I said I was unwell and could not meet him. He went to see Shu Fei and An Fei. The 2 of them spoke of my conduct in the harem while he was away. The emperor might truly believe he was wrong, but he still did not understand. The child has already come. Are we really going to abort it? Shu Fei spoke calmly. Although Zhou Sui is favored by the emperor, her family background is ordinary, and her appearance is average. The only thing she can compete with is her virtue. Making Zhou Sui empress is not something the emperor can decide alone, it must be recognized by the people of the realm and the court officials. And Fei asked curiously, Your Majesty, when you proposed Zhou Girl as empress in the previous court, what did the ministers say? The emperor's face darkened, and his expression was grim. He hadn't mentioned it at all, and he dared not mention it. I am well aware of what has happened in the previous court in recent days. The emperor has not appeared for over 9 months, and the ministers have grown accustomed to his absence, establishing their own set of rules. His sudden appearance disrupted their rhythm. He rushed to reclaim power, scolded the elderly ministers, rejected their petitions, and reassigned officials. Upon his return, he immediately emphasized imperial authority rather than expressing gratitude and proceeding gradually. The ministers are no pushovers either, they have brought out the old regulations of their ancestors to restrict the emperor with rituals and rules. There is a growing trend of mutual hostility between them. In the previous life, the emperor spent little time outside the palace, and upon his return, he reclaimed his authority without much resistance. In this life, his difficult days have arrived. If he dared to propose Zhou Sui as empress at this moment, he would be attacked by the ministers until he issued a self-reproach edict, and would have to go before the ancestors to apologize before the matter could be resolved. The emperor left the Shufei palace with a stern expression. He burst into my palace with a cold expression. I curtsied and turned to play with the children. In this lifetime, my parents are alive. My sisters are harmonious, and I have a son by my side. He is of no use to me anymore. The emperor sensed my coldness. He stammered, Ah Feng, it was I who misunderstood you. I stopped him from continuing. Those empty words. I didn't want to hear a single one. How low he was now. How ruthless he would be when the time came to settle accounts. I did not wish to offend him completely just yet. I would wait for the day to strike while he was down. Your Majesty is not at fault. In this servant's heart, Your Majesty is never wrong. The fault lies with those who planted the notion of jealousy in Your Majesty's mind. This servant is truly innocent. I lifted my sleeve and pretended to wipe away tears. It had been too long since I had acted in front of the Emperor. My eyes were dry, and I couldn't cry at all. The Emperor frowned. Perhaps my words made him feel a little better. Sui is new here and doesn't understand the rules of the palace. Ah, Feng. Don't take it to heart. I still think of you. Sui. I'm doing this all for you. I'm just going through the motions with her. You are the one I truly love. Don't misunderstand me. Bitch. A pair of bitches. Kill them. Kill them all. I used the excuse of holding the child to shake off the Emperor's hand that was on my shoulder. I cleared my throat and said, Your Majesty, there is no need for this. I have said before that I do not envy whom you favor. If you wish to make Girl the Empress, as long as the court officials agree, I will absolutely welcome her into the palace with the utmost respect. However, before offering my advice, there is one thing I wish to clarify. What do you like about Girl? The Emperor froze. He remained silent. But his mind was racing. What do I like about Sui? She is not as beautiful as the Empress. Not as talented as the noble consort. And not as lively and charming as the consortin. In terms of appearance, family background, and demeanor, she is indeed inferior in every way. But she has shared hardships with me, shielded me from danger, and endured so much suffering for me. In this harem of concubines, each harbors ulterior motives. But only Sui has chosen to follow me. Who has nothing? And only we have proven our true feelings in times of adversity. He raised his eyes and said, I love her for her sincere heart. This is something I have never felt before in the palace. An emperor who has slept with every woman in the palace is this pure-hearted? It's hard to believe. But for some reason, I feel like he truly means it. Perhaps he is telling the truth. The women in the palace are either from prominent families or the offspring of officials. Each with their own missions. True feelings are rare for us. Even if we were to offer our true hearts, would he dare to accept them? Not only would he not accept them, but he would likely see us as greedy and insatiable. He already harbors prejudice against women from noble families. And this prejudice prevents him from loving any of us. He only sees us as a threat. Moreover, does hardship truly reveal one's true heart? It's merely a temporary reliance on one another in times of weakness. When people are hungry, they become simple. But that doesn't mean they become pure. I'll see if their sincerity can withstand the test. Since His Majesty insists on making Miss So the Empress, I have 2 suggestions. The first is to abort the child and find a noble family to adopt Miss So as their daughter. Then formally marry her to the Emperor. The other is to keep the child. There was once a concubine surnamed So in the palace who died during a national mourning period. So she was secretly buried without fanfare. Later, the eunuchs forgot to report this matter. I discovered it before searching for the continuation of Hu Bashir for free. I originally planned to wait for His Majesty's return to decide. But now I feel this is a good opportunity. If Girl takes the name of that concubine, she will have a noble lineage and a clear background. Though her rank will be that of a beauty, she will have to wait to rise slowly. This path is slow and may take several years. But it is the safest option. And the Emperor will face the least difficulties. How to choose? Please discuss with Girl and make your own decision. The Emperor left with a heavy heart. I watched his back, the corners of my lips curving slightly. If Zhou Sui chooses to become empress and abandon her child, I will make her regret it for the rest of her life. If she chooses to start as a lowly beauty, then she will fall into my hands. I will make her know what it means to be a woman in the palace. The emperor and Zhou Sui had an argument. Zhou Sui ran out of the palace. It was pouring rain, and she cried out in agony. Zhao Xin, you said you would clear all obstacles for me, but you believed them and abandoned our child. Neither I nor the child will ever forgive you. I'm leaving here and never coming back. The emperor grabbed her and forcefully carried her back. You are mine. You're not allowed to go anywhere. My side is your home. The two of them fought and cried, screaming and shouting. Shu Fei and An Fei stood in the distance, holding umbrellas and watching quietly. Shu Fei said coldly, I've gotten goosebumps all over. An Fei covered her eyes. My eyes are going to go blind. How could the emperor become like this? He wasn't like this before. Could it be? Could it be that we chased him and he hit his head when he was running away? She whispered. I said lazily. He's probably always been like this. It's just that Zhou Sui brought out his true nature. I always felt that he and Zhou Sui were the same kind of people. They both felt that others were out to harm them. In his world, they were the good guys, and we were all the bad guys. When I had intimate relations with him, it was out of self-abasement and promiscuity, thinking only of carnal desires. When he and Zhou Sui lived under the open sky, doing as they pleased, it was simply following their hearts and revering nature. We flatter him because we covet power and have low morals. Zhou Sui says she doesn't want this or that, but all the best things in the palace are in her room. Yet he thinks she is indifferent to fame and fortune, of noble character. In my previous life, I tormented myself over this. Now, I've come to understand. The emperor finds me objectionable, I'll just have him removed. This way, my world will be filled with people who find me pleasing. This is the right path. I wonder how the emperor persuaded Zhou Sui. She agreed to have an abortion. I was overjoyed and personally led the imperial physician to prescribe the abortion medicine for her. This is Song Yui's abortion medicine. Though it is bitter, it is highly effective and has a good reputation. This is the medicine from imperial physician Zhao. It has a mild nature and won't harm the body, but the process will take longer. If Zhou Sui chooses this medicine, she'll have to endure some pain. This is the medicine from imperial physician Kong. It's a bit stronger, but the process is quick. However, after taking it, she won't be able to serve the emperor for at least 3 months. Zhou Sui's face turned as pale as frost. Empress, are you trying to scare me? I ignored her and turned to the emperor, saying helplessly, Your Majesty, please choose for Zhou girl. Whatever I say now, she probably won't want to hear. I walked behind the emperor and gave Zhou Sui a defiant smile. In my previous life, she had acted the same way in front of the emperor, using words of compromise and resignation to imply that I was being overly demanding and jealous. In this life, I was using her own tactics against her. I hoped she could hold her ground. The emperor urged, Zhou Sui, choose one. Zhou Sui tearfully replied, Deep brother, can't you see she's bullying me? If she truly cares about me, she should have brought a proper prescription, not 3. The emperor frowned at me. I looked at the 3 imperial physicians. The 3 physicians sighed helplessly. We each specialize in different areas, so the prescriptions we wrote are different, but they are all effective and good for the young lady's health. If you insist on combining them into one, it can be done. Please wait a moment. The imperial physicians went to rewrite the prescriptions. After a moment, they combined them into one. Zhou Sui was satisfied, and the palace maid went to boil the medicine. I had Shu Fei take a look, and she nodded at me. I knew then that this prescription was bitter, required a long time to take, and would need to be delayed for another 3 months before she could attend the emperor, combining the shortcomings of all the others. It was worth the effort I put into improving the imperial physician's benefits. I was very satisfied. Soon, the medicine was ready. Zhou Sui took a sip and spat it out. "It's so bitter," she cried, looking pitiful. The emperor tried to comfort her. "Sui, stop this. I'm truly exhausted." In just a few days, he had already shown signs of exhaustion. Zhou Sui dared not say anything more, enduring the bitterness and finishing the medicine. Soon, the symptoms began to manifest. She was covered in cold sweat, clutching her stomach on the bed, crying pitifully. The emperor cried out in panic. "Why is this happening?" I remained calm and said, "Your Majesty, childbirth is like this for women. She had a miscarriage, and since it was early in the pregnancy, it is better than giving birth." I lowered my head and kissed the child in my arms. But it was worth it. He was my little treasure. For him, everything was worth it. The emperor's eyes were filled with complex emotions. Were the concubines also like this when they gave birth? But I wasn't there at the time. I have wronged them. As long as they behave themselves and do not cause trouble for Sui, I will spare them. Ah, Feng, you have been through a lot these past few days. He rarely spoke such kind words. But I no longer needed them. In my previous life, Zhao Jiufeng willingly served him as a lackey, hoping only for his approval. Yet she was constantly suppressed, questioned, and criticized. In this life, I will take what I want for myself. I will praise myself, love myself, and treat myself with sincerity. I smiled. "Your Majesty, since you have returned to the palace, you have not had a proper checkup. The imperial physicians are here today, perhaps they could examine you as well, so that I need not worry." The emperor hesitated. Xu Fei said, "Your Majesty, it will take some time for Zhou girl to finish. If anything happens, the palace maids will report it immediately. We will diagnose you in the side hall and won't go far." The emperor agreed. Empress and supported him affectionately, as if he were a fragile person. The emperor visibly relaxed, as if he had found someone to rely on. He left lightly. He did not notice Zhou Sui's resentful gaze. I understood her feelings. She was here, alone and helpless, enduring pain, unsure of her future. He, however, was only concerned with himself, wanting only to escape the chaos. They had shared hardships and once felt each other's pain. But back in the opulent palace, he was the emperor, high above everyone else, while she was an unknown fisherwoman. The gap between them was now evident. In truth, the gap had always been there, it had simply been overlooked before. Now, they had merely returned to their respective circles. That was all. The imperial physician examined the emperor from head to toe, inside and out. After finishing the diagnosis, he furrowed his brows tightly. I immediately said, "How is the emperor's health? Speak up. The emperor and I will take care in the future. If you hide anything, and the emperor is unaware and gets injured again, it will be your fault." The 3 imperial physicians immediately knelt on the ground. "We deserve to die. We dare not speak." The emperor seemed to realize something. He frowned and coldly ordered, "Speak!" The 3 imperial physicians looked at each other. And the leader stammered, "We examined the emperor's body and discovered that he had been injured in the past. It is likely that he will be unable to have children in the future." The emperor was stunned. His expression was as if he had been struck by lightning. He couldn't react for a moment. "You dare to speak such nonsense?" "We dare not." The 3 imperial physicians knelt on the ground, nearly scared to death. In truth, they had known all along that the emperor could not have children. But in the past, they had clung to a sliver of hope, thinking that if any of the concubines in the harem were to become pregnant, it would reflect poorly on their medical skills. So they dared not speak. But now, the emperor had suffered severe injuries below the waist, and that last shred of hope was gone. If any of the concubines in the harem were to become pregnant, it would be a green hat of infidelity placed on the emperor's head. Therefore, they had no choice but to speak the truth. Today was actually a good opportunity for them. The emperor looked utterly bewildered, but after a moment, he seemed to realize something. Sui. He had thought of it. If he could no longer have children, the child in Zhou Sui's womb would be his last. But it was too late. I curved my lips slightly, then quickly suppressed the smile and followed behind. Xu Fei and An Fei hurried after her, holding their skirts, afraid of missing anything. The three imperial physicians also rushed to follow. As they approached the main hall, Zhou Sui's piercing screams grew louder. The midwife comforted Zhou Sui. Just push a little harder, and it will come out. The emperor shouted. Don't. However, Zhou Sui was startled and trembled. The midwife exclaimed joyfully. It's out. It's a boy. He's already 4 months old. What a pity. The emperor's steps toward the inner chamber halted. He glared coldly at the midwife. How many months did you say? Your Majesty. 4 months. Can you determine the fetus's gestational age? The two midwives exchanged glances and answered honestly. Your Majesty. The length, weight, and facial features of a fetus vary by month. We have delivered many babies and can tell. The fetus in Zhou's womb is over 4 months old. We would not make a mistake. The emperor closed his eyes and took a deep breath. When he opened them again, the anger in his eyes had turned to calm. All of you, leave. The others were confused and began to leave. The emperor said again, the 3 imperial physicians, stay. I wished he would have kept me too. Unfortunately, he did not. I walked slowly. Xu Fei walked beside me. An Fei lagged a few steps behind us. We all heard a loud shout from the inner chambers. You worthless servant! How long do you intend to deceive me? The corners of my lips curled slightly. In this life, I sent people to search for Zhou Sui, but we couldn't find her. She seemed to be living in a utopian paradise, with only the emperor able to open the gate to that paradise. I could only focus my efforts on the emperor, delaying the emperor's meeting with Zhou Sui. For over a month before he left the palace, he traveled and enjoyed himself. I waited until he was far from the palace and couldn't return in time, then ordered my men to pursue and kill him. But the emperor was truly difficult to kill. We fought with all our strength, yet only managed to wound him in the lower body. He ended up in a fishing village and was saved by Zhou Sui. After recovering from his injuries, he secretly returned to the capital with Zhou Sui. The two endured countless hardships along the way, and their feelings for each other grew, leading them to become entangled in a fateful relationship. I imagine the emperor must have been overjoyed at that time. A man who had been wounded in the lower body would likely seek to prove his worth by conquering women, in order to regain his self-respect. The fact that Zhou Sui was pregnant must have filled him with immense joy. This was the best proof of his continued virility. But today, the words of the imperial physician and the midwife shattered his self-respect. He was nothing more than a pitiful man who had lost his power, his ability to father children, and was wearing a green hat. The pure and flawless love he had longed for was nothing but a liar who deceived both above and below. We don't need to lift a finger, he will trample her into the mud himself. What happened after we left that day? I pieced together the truth from the words of several palace attendants. The emperor had the imperial physician confirm the fetus's gestational age, then chopped off the fetus's fingers, dripping blood into the bones. to confirm whether the fetus was his own. But he failed. I think he might have gone mad. Dripping blood into the bones to verify paternity is just a folk belief. Yet he believed it. Perhaps he was truly desperate. Like a trapped beast. Zhou Sui was not allowed to take a postpartum confinement period and was demoted to a palace maid. The emperor ordered her to serve him, watching her every day. Yet he tormented her mercilessly. He would randomly knock things over and make Zhou Sui kneel on the ground to clean up. He stepped on her hands, watching her cry out in pain before feeling satisfied. He made her grind ink, then poured the ink all over her body, dipping his fingers in the ink on her skin to write, laughing wildly. He made her serve food, then scattered it all over her face, forbidding her to wash it off. After seeing all this, I realized how twisted a person could be. The emperor was dissatisfied with his harem, and the court was also in chaos. He took advantage of this madness to deal with several powerful ministers and regain some of his authority. If he hadn't been there, I would have done these things myself. If he could handle it in his generation, it would spare me the trouble of getting my hands dirty later. Once he had mostly settled things, I began to act, and coincidentally encountered Zhou Sui. At that time, Zhou Sui was already emaciated, her body reduced to little more than bones. She no longer cared about her own life. Upon seeing me, she did not bow in respect but instead curled her lips into a mocking smile. You women of the palace are truly disgusting. All you know is scheming and plotting. I can't defeat you, but I still find you repulsive. When she entered the palace, she had 7 parts of her beauty intact. But now she had been tortured until only 4 remained. Yet her eyes shone with an astonishing brilliance. I recalled a disease characterized by bright, protruding eyes and a thick neck. Her symptoms matched some of those descriptions. I have never wronged you. Yet you have targeted me ever since you entered the palace. Why do you hate me so much? Humph. Why should I tell you? She wore a secretive smile, exuding a sense of self-satisfaction, as if she alone was awake while the world was drunk. I thought about it and decided I didn't need to know. Once she was dead, there would be no secrets left. I laughed. If you don't want to say it, then never say it. Those who speak are dogs. Zhou Sui's eyes widened, and she held her breath, unable to speak, looking very uncomfortable. She snorted coldly and turned to leave. I said, I know who you've been having an affair with. Her footsteps halted. You're just using underhanded schemes to slander a woman's reputation and suppress her. I despise people like you. I won't believe a single word you say. I smiled. Should I call you Miss Zhou? Or Miss Zhou? Should I call you Zhou Sui? Or Zhou Sui? She turned back, her face darkening. What nonsense. Ha 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 ha. I wasn't sure before, but seeing your reaction, I'm certain now. I recall that the empress of the previous dynasty was surnamed Zhou. After the previous dynasty fell, her clan protected the imperial family and fled, changing their names and disappearing. I never expected you to be a descendant of the former imperial family. She was startled, then gave a strange smile. You're a loyal dog to Zhaoshen. But do you know what he says about you? He says you're beautiful but empty-headed, arrogant and extravagant, yet unaware of your own flaws. If it weren't for the necessity of using your family, he wouldn't want to see you for a single day. He treats you like this, yet you still serve him? I reached out and slapped her across the face without hesitation. Unfortunately, I could only slap her once. If I had the chance, I would have slapped her until her face was swollen like a pig's. I coldly said, The emperor is my husband and my lord. I will not tolerate you trampling on his dignity. I turned and walked away. But as I walked, I felt dizzy. Before I fell to the ground, a figure darted out of the dark bamboo grove and held me tightly in his arms. Jiu Feng, Zhou Feng? I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I shouldn't have harbored prejudice against you. I was truly wrong. I'm such a fool. Why did I humiliate my own concubine for a woman who betrayed me? I deserve to die. Hearing the emperor's voice, I let myself faint. The emperor truly treated Zhou Suyi differently. He tormented her during the day. But at night, he followed her, escorting her back to her cramped palace maid's quarters before returning to his own chambers. That's why I knew this and waited here for Zhou Suyi. All my efforts were not in vain. I fainted for 3 days. I had calculated the dosage carefully. 3 days were enough for the emperor to uncover the truth. He discovered that Zhou Suyi's real name was Zhou Suyi. They were remnants of the former royal family, hiding in a fishing village for decades. The emperor stumbled upon them by accident, and they saw this as a golden opportunity to restore the former dynasty. They planned to use Zhou Suyi to confuse the imperial bloodline and seize the throne without shedding a drop of blood. Zhou Suyi initially shared this ambition. However, once she entered the palace, her thoughts began to change. She did not want to be controlled by the remnants of the former royal family anymore. She was well aware that they were bound to fail. And when that happened, they could escape easily, while she, alone, would surely die in the depths of the palace. She wanted to truly control her own destiny, but she planned to observe the situation and go with the flow. If the emperor was powerful, she would use him against us. Give birth to a child, and rule alone, enjoying all the luxuries of life. If the empress was powerful, she could use the excuse of getting rid of the child to eliminate future threats, and then exploit the emperor's guilt to suppress the empress, elevate herself to a high position, and slowly conceive a child to secure her place in the palace. She had everything planned out perfectly. The only thing she hadn't accounted for was that the emperor was unable to have children. All her hopes and dreams had turned to dust. The emperor was furious. He had always believed that he and Zhou Suyi were truly in love, never imagining that from the day he fell into that fishing village, it had all been a scheme. He now hated Zhou Suyi with a vengeance. He hated the remnants of the previous dynasty even more. He sent men to eliminate them, but they had already fled. The emperor was now in a state of rage. He couldn't stand anyone. The ministers dared not provoke him, and the concubines dared not approach him. So he resorted to torturing Zhou Suyi in every imaginable way. In his rage, he actually came up with a plan. He intended to make Zhou Suyi his empress and have her send a signal to summon those people. Those people did not know that Zhou Suyi had miscarried and would certainly come to mock her. At that time, he would capture them all. He feared I might misunderstand, so he came to explain himself. This was the first time I saw him after waking up. And in just a few days, he had grown so thin he was unrecognizable. Ah, Feng, do not misunderstand. I am trying to lure the snake out of its hole. Once I have dealt with those remnants of the previous dynasty, I will compensate you generously. I will make you empress, and Zhou Suyi will be at your disposal. Perhaps I was truly wrong. My mother's judgment was indeed better than mine. Though aristocratic women may be affected, propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame are ingrained in their bones. Zhou Suyi, that wanton woman, doesn't hold a candle to Ah Feng. I remained silent for a moment, wanting to offer some advice. Don't judge someone as either good or evil. Couldn't it be that everyone has both good and bad sides? And it just depends on which side is dominant at the moment. But then I thought better of it. The emperor and I will never be able to sit down and have a heart-to-heart conversation in this lifetime. Let it all end this way. On the day of the coronation ceremony, the emperor did not allow me to attend the bridal procession. Zhou Suyi's face was deathly pale, dressed in a loose wedding gown, being manipulated by palace attendants like a puppet, exuding a sense of despair and decay. When she saw me, her eyes flashed with an astonishing brilliance. Zhao Jiu Feng. Have you come to mock me? If I had the same background and family as you, I would never have lost to you. I would have charmed Zhaoshan completely, leaving you alone and helpless in the palace for the rest of your life. I didn't lose. So don't dare come here to mock me. Oh. Humph. You're wrong. Your only advantage was your lowly background. If you were also from a noble family, the emperor would still despise you. With your looks, you wouldn't even have been able to enter the palace. In my second life, I've always been curious about the emperor's thoughts. Why doesn't he like noble women? Why does he think we're all bad? Later, I learned from an old palace maid that when the emperor was young, he was harshly scolded by his mother. His mother was from a noble family and had great expectations for him. But unfortunately, the emperor was mediocre and had no outstanding qualities. To motivate him, his mother constantly compared him to others. Today, he couldn't shoot arrows as well as the son of another noble family. Tomorrow, his calligraphy was inferior to that of a noble family's son. The day after tomorrow, he couldn't recite the classics as well as a noble family's son. He was constantly suppressed, and his entire childhood and adolescence were spent in disgrace. But he was lucky. His mother was determined and fought her way through the ranks, propelling him to a high position. Even more cleverly, upon ascending the throne, his mother selected a consort for him and then passed away. No one could restrain him anymore. He could freely unleash his true nature. The more outstanding we concubines, chosen by the late Empress Dowager, became, the more inferior he felt. Only by suppressing us could he regain his self-respect. So he belittled and looked down on us, watching us circle around him, confused and clueless. He was delighted. Zhou Sui's appearance was a salvation for him. She knew nothing about the palace, had no talent, and was completely dependent on him. He manipulates her, controls her, and finds it deeply pleasurable. Occasionally, she pricks him, but he savors it, for everything is under his control. If Zhou Sui were like us, he would abandon her as easily as discarding an old shoe. Zhou Sui's eyes turned red. Zhao Jiu Feng. I hate you. If you were dead, everything would be over. I curved my lips slightly and used my fingers to lift her gaunt face. Miss Zhou, you are ill. Even I can see it. Did the emperor not notice? The man you love so dearly cares less for you than your sworn enemy. What use is such love? Furthermore, what do you hate about me? What right do you have to hate me? The one who impregnated you was a remnant of the former imperial family. The one who forced you to abort was the emperor. And the one who abandoned you was also the emperor. The only thing I have done for you is to uncover your true identity. You dare not hate them. Yet you dare to hate me. Is it because you are hypocritical and weak? You dare not hate those who are far stronger than you. But you dare to hate me, who seems easier to bully. It is because you know you are weak and helpless, and can only vent your hatred on me, who is also a woman. Humph. How pitiful. However, there is no point in saying this to you. After today, you will die. After this incident, the emperor now knows that we, the women of the aristocratic families, are the most reliable. The emperor will make me his empress. I am the only woman standing by his side. And you will die. Zhou Sui charged at me in anger, but was held back by palace maids on both sides. I want you dead. You worthless slave. I want you dead. I raised my eyes defiantly at her. I am the winner. Seeing Zhou Sui's fiery eyes, I left satisfied. The grand ceremony began. The emperor led Zhou Sui into the square. Sure enough, there were some people who didn't fit in among the crowd. Their faces were dark, a mark left by years of fishing and hunting. Though they wore new clothes and behaved politely, it was merely temporary etiquette. not the elegance ingrained in the bones of nobility. They stared intently at the emperor. Their lips curled into a secret smile. The music began, and the emperor raised his hand. Suddenly, the soldiers standing behind them silently raised their axes and swords, striking down with force. Blood spattered everywhere, and as each head fell, the expressions on their faces still bore a sinister smile. Zhou Sui was terrified. She clung to her head and screamed loudly, throwing herself into the emperor's arms. "Deep brother, save me." The emperor was dazed and instinctively reached out to catch her. However, what he caught was not a warm embrace, but a cold blade. Zhou Sui's face was covered in blood, but she smiled broadly. She brushed past the emperor and looked at me, laughing madly. "I won. The winner is me. What I can't have, you can't have either." The next moment, she opened her mouth wide. Her body was pierced by several knives and crashed heavily to the ground. The emperor was not dead, but severely injured. He knew his time had come. He summoned me and the court officials to his bedside and made arrangements for his final affairs. He appointed me as empress. He named my son as crown prince. He entrusted him to several ministers and instructed me to rule from behind the curtain. Then he looked at me, his eyes filled with lingering affection. The court officials withdrew. I held my son in my arms and sat beside him, watching him. Perhaps, when one is about to die, their words are kind. At that moment, his paternal love suddenly awoke, and he struggled to raise his fingers to touch the child's cheek. Alas, I cannot accompany him as he grows up. I regret it so much. I am not a good father. It does not matter. Your Majesty, you were never meant to be a father. I spoke softly, a smile playing at the corners of my lips. He froze. "What do you mean?" I bent down, gently covering his nose with my hand, and whispered in his ear, "Your Majesty, you weren't unable to have children because of your injuries. You've never been able to have children. You're a eunuch. Don't you know?" He struggled violently. You're lying. And Fei. Shu. Oh. Those two. Your Majesty, didn't you notice that we were pregnant at the same time? And our children's birthdays are only a few days apart. The emperor's eyes widened, tears welling up. His teeth clenched in anger. You whore. You whores. Sui. My Sui. He struggled feebly, trying to sit up, but only managed to cough up a mouthful of blood before collapsing back onto the bed. He was dead. He died with his eyes wide open. The bed curtains fluttered in the breeze. A chill crept into my skin. I took a step back and coldly stared at him. Your Majesty, you are still so black and white. When we are bad, your plain robe becomes good. When the plain robe is bad, we become good again. In truth, we are who we are. Always have been. If you want genuine love, you must exchange it for genuine love. There is no such thing in this world where you torment me and humiliate me. Yet I still love you and long for you. If there is, it must be a deception. This life shall be as it is. If there is a next life, we will settle our accounts then. I carried the child out and announced the emperor's death in a loud voice. The crowd knelt and wailed. I looked at the setting sun and felt that the good days had only just begun. The intrigues of the palace had come to an end. The intrigues of the previous dynasty have begun. And I finally have the opportunity to step onto the battlefield of power. This world. I have come. You all kneel before me.